Thank you for your time today. I know you're a very busy person.
I am, and actually, it's going to be tighter than we had anticipated.
Okay,
Just because I'm just falling behind on a whole bunch of meetings
I see.
and some meetings
Uh,
I've added.
well, in that case, maybe I could read my notes. I will need probably 7 minutes, 8 minutes. That's good for you
Go right ahead.
because I have a case that I want your help for sorting out this. So, well, as you might recall, I reached you once again with some credible third-party evidence that I think is credible. That suggests that several of our key institutions of the Canadian government have been somehow infiltrated by corporate powers. They are influencing our politicians to run the script of a roadmap that is dictated from the exterior, from Davos. And this elite is a group of billionaires, as you know. Most of them, I could say, they are obsessed with the goal of reducing world population and deprive individuals, families, societies, and nations from any independence in order so they can exercise a tighter grip of power. And they came out with very interesting proposals, internationally speaking, under the Agenda 2020, 2030, etc., which are sugar-coated proposals that based on a cover-up of very interesting concepts, environment care, sustainability, etc. They are really masking some more sinister objectives to my belief and to many people's belief. So I think you are very aware of these these beliefs, this Davos group, and their actions are reflected in every country right now, almost every country. In fact, their influence and what they are doing now, in the past used to be secret, but now is open, is declared, is promoted as an agenda that every country of the world is following or should follow at least. Well, under the current political management of Canada, and I know you are very active in knowing every single aspect of the politics in our country, I have to tell you, I came to this country almost 10, 12 years ago now, with the belief that Canada was kind of a model country, a country where we could expect to have a better life for us and our children. And that, I have to say, sadly, has changed dramatically in the last 4 or 5 years. And I say this sadly because I voted for Mr. Trudeau, for Liberals. I voted for you. But my belief is that even Liberals, even this party that traditionally has been on the side of people, is being now running the scripts of these foreign powers. And the harm that is caused, and this is so big. Maybe you don't see the effects because they're very busy in the office. I understand that. I work in the public service as well. And sometimes we're overwhelmed with the communications, goals, short-term, long-term, etc., the administration of the things. But we don't see the everyday cases that are showing a different reality. So, as you well know, under the pretext of the current COVID-19 disease, which many virologists, by the way, they say is just a more severe flu version of the seasonal flu, we deployed a pandemic, an emergency state. And this is something that has hit me very much, and not only me, a lot of Canadians. Almost in every country, this is noticeable, the same measures have been taken at the same place. And more noticeable even is that in the media of all these different countries, US, my country, home country, Chile, etc., UK, you name it, all of the same news are run every day with the same type, the templates. The problem is that all these have deteriorated, eroded our civil liberties. Small and medium businesses have been destroyed. Not only that, people's livelihoods have been smashed. Many people even have committed suicide. Drug addiction is on the rise, and all this is showing a terrible social panorama of Canada. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking if this trend continues, I will move from Canada. And I'm telling you, many people, professionals like me and with high education, they are thinking the same way. So I don't think it's good for a country that people wants to move away. So I compare this feeling to the feeling that I have when I came to Canada. It's the opposite, totally the opposite. I understand that you may have a different view of all the situation. And for that, I wanted to show you hard facts of implications that the policies that have been made in the last year have beaten so hard Canadians. You may recall that it was 3 or 4 months ago that we talked, that I told you that I wanted to have a prostate laser procedure called HOLEP to remove growth of my prostate because I could not sleep in the night. I was having a terrible life in that time, waking up 5, 6 times in the night, not sleeping. You can imagine how it is to work like this. So I reached out my medical services. In that time it was like April, May the last year, but everything was closed. I live 5 blocks from a hospital, and the hospital was only reserved for receiving people with symptoms of COVID. We didn't have even dentists for almost half a year. Well, you know the situation because you live this too. So the problem is that after this reality, I faced a system that denied me the medical services that I needed. For the reason I commented to you, I plan to go away to receive this operation in another country, in Russia, where the homeland of my spouse. She's a nurse, by the way. So I talked this with my urologist, and he agreed to help me with that. We did all the exams that we needed. In consequence, I made the reservations and the booking for traveling to Russia. I took all the papers because in that time, Mr. Trudeau implemented the mandatory quarantine in hotels. To me, I echo most of people calling them jail hotels because that's the way how you perceive you're treated there. And with that fear, I reached out to Health Canada to see if I could get an exemption for that, because coming with an operation, post-operated, you are not in a mood or in a capacity to go into such a place. So I gathered all the papers from my urologist, from the urologist in Russia after my operation, 3 days before traveling here, and I show up with those papers in the airport. Before that, I completed the ArriveCAN application, which asks your reason for traveling. And according to that application, I was exempt from the reservation of the hotel. Even more, I was exempt for the PCR test on arrival, and I was so happy. So I traveled very confident that I would have a smooth return home. I came here, and I found, to my surprise, a very unempathetic CBSA officer. He didn't like the papers that I took. I think he didn't even believe that I traveled for medical purposes. The problem is that he referred me to discuss my situation with Health Canada. The first person there was nice. He said, I am not the person who need to talk. Go to a second person because they treat this medical exception. I went there. The person who listened my case only asked me if I have an hotel reservation. I said, no. The application said I didn't need it, so I didn't do it. He said, oh, then you need to go to an hotel now. We will put you in a hotel. I said, no, I will not. And then, as he saw that I was getting altered, he referred me to his supervisor. She was very empathetic. She understood, and she granted us as an exception that we could make quarantine in our home, with the condition that we took the PCR in the airport and another PCR 8 days after.
You're quite fortunate.
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate in that regard.
That wasn't the case for most people.
I know, because I've been following this very much. So you are aware of that problem as well. So when I came to home and I started quarantine and I reached the 8th date to take the PCR test, before that I recalled a lady in Italy who is a physicist and a biologist who analyzed all the PCR swab tests that they were using in Italy and the European Union. And she made microscopic analysis and laboratory analysis of the composition of the swabs. And she found, listen well, brittle fibers in the swab instead of cotton. And furthermore, she found other heavy metals and substances that are produce irritation, and they might produce even further development of chronic disease, even cancer. This is similar to fiberglass that in the construction industry is banned. You cannot breathe that. I mean, you can use it, but not breathe it. Right. But in this case, we were using it in the PCR swabs. I was panicking when I saw that video. So I as I had the kit at home to see the kit that I have to apply in my own nose, I used a microscope that I have, optical microscope, and surprise, I found the same fibers. And not only that, I thought maybe it's a coincidence, but then I pressed a little bit with sterile material, and they broke. They broke in the spot, and I made a video of that. And this is terrible, because if these fibers incrustate in your mucosa, nasopharyngeal mucosa, they provoke irritation, they provoke cough, they might provoke infection, and they might provoke loss of smell sense. And this physician, she's the expert, she said if you do this on a frequent basis, you might create a chronic condition. And I had to do it 3 times in these 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. Once before coming to Canada, here in Canada, and in the 8th day. Not only that, after the 9th day of the application in my nose, every morning I felt this thing in my back, irritation. So I took a scraper, I took a sample, and I looked at it at the microscope, and guess what? I found fibers there.
Excuse me, Mr. Moraga, can you just hold on for a line, please?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Wrap this up because I would like to comment a little bit on what you've been saying.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to report this. You know that I sent a letter to Health Canada about another find out of another physician who found something very unusual in the blood. I received an answer from Health Canada. They say, we can assure you everything is good, don't worry. An automatic reply, this is not professional. I think I spent a lot of time, by the way, most of my time in Russia to research very well this thing because I didn't have nothing to do, just to recover there. And there is plenty of evidence from very well-known physicians that are saying once and again, different people, we are seeing in blood of people who have received the vaccines, these substances, and they are creating clots and, ictus and all these things. So I found really very unprofessional from the side of Health Canada, the way they are handling these things. So I want to reach you to see if you can help me to get their attention, at least with my case, which is something that happened to me, because if it's happened to me, it's happening to everybody, okay? And you can get the picture of it. If you have something that irritates you and produce, flu-like symptoms, you might end up going to the hospital again, being PCR tested again, and that is increase only the clinical situation for you. And then you ended up being a statistic or maybe worse, receiving bad medical health and dying. I don't know. I've seen too many bad malpractices lately that I will not be surprised. So I will wrap up this information. I will send it to you by email with the evidence I have in my microscope and everything, hoping that you might help me to get a hold from Health Canada, because otherwise they will not listen to me. They will think I'm another crazy person that is just I think I might look altered, but I am an industrial engineer. I'm not a person that just believe whatever he saw in the internet. I just research very well everything. So a lot of things that I've heard, I discarded. They are totally false. But when I find hard evidence, and that is being dismissed, this is not healthy for anybody, not for governments, not for people, not for anyone. So that's what I wanted to say.
Well, look, notwithstanding, I can't judge on what the evidence you found in your own particular health situation, but I can certainly speak to the notion of the Davos aspect that you raised at the front end of our meeting. Look, I don't know how to convince you. I'm not in anyone's pocket. I don't like you, I'm very careful about the information which I receive. And I don't feel that I'm in any type of situation that would make me be doing other people's bidding, even if they were giving me false choices from which to choose, which I guess would be the overall view. I think Canada made a very unique choice on how we were going to get through the pandemic, and I'm sorry that you don't feel that we were there to support businesses or people who are vulnerable. I think completely the contrary. And I was just speaking to a business person yesterday who was just saying to me how they just could not have survived. A small business person could not have survived if the government hadn't been there to help support them through the
No, I know
pandemic.
that part. I'm familiar with that part.
So I would regret for you to leave Canada because you feel that we're no longer the country that are making original choices and the ones which support the common man, the common woman. But I think we really have done that, and I think we've done it better than most countries in the world, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah, the economical support for entrepreneurs and people that lost employment is true. I don't deny that. The problem is this is a solution in the very short term. This is like cutting your hand.
Well, it was only meant to be a short term.
But this is projecting forever, and it will be forever if we don't stop it. That's the point. This is like cutting the hand of somebody. Say, look, you don't need to worry anymore for working because we're going to give you for 1 year, the basket of food. Be happy. And yeah, it's good. It will help during that year to that person who loses the hand. But what happens if you cut the hand of a person who is an entrepreneur, who needs to create business, and you give his hand to a bigger organization that has hundreds of hands? There's no way to compete in the future. You're killing the small businesses. So that's my point. In the long term, all these measures are nonsense. I know because I study economy, administration. I have an MBA. So
we disagree because
I have to tell you, I live.
We can't allow people to suffer needlessly.
Of course, but what will happen the day after? In 3 years after?
Jobs are coming back.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Can I prove you not? Can I prove you not? Look, 5G is being implemented everywhere. 5G, I am a technologist, IT guy. 5G is wonderful. The speed of information is, real time. You can control vehicles, everything. We will have only autonomous vehicles. You know what does mean? You will not need drivers anymore. Do you know what are doing most of the people who lost their jobs right now in Canada? They are delivering pizza, hamburgers, and Amazon packages. You terminate their jobs, what you will have? A lot of people with nothing to do.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Fergus.
Time out?
I do
meeting.
Okay, I understand.
Coming soon.
I understand. I'm sorry for taking this time. I really thank you for your time, Mr. Fergus. I think you will not hear this thing from anybody of your colleagues because I understand the protocols, but you need to hear from a Canadian that loves Canada, but now is feeling very disappointed. Thank you very much, and I hope that you will help me to reach out to Canada at least.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.